Today, we are going to discuss a very important concept in public administration, that is administrative responsibility. The concept itself is a very important aspect which is very essential for a democratic country, and this aspect of administrative responsibility is very required for the effective functioning of a democracy and its aspects. Today we will be discussing about the Indian administration and the controls which we have envisaged in the Indian administration. Concept of accountability. The term administrative responsibility and administrative accountability have been both interchangeably used for a long period of time. Both these terms or both these aspects deals with the same subject, and it is all about the administrative perspective which both the aspects are covering. About the responsibility part, it is about the subjective, whereas the accountability part deals with the objective aspect. That's it. But in short, both these aspects deals with the same objective of the perfections in administration. The concept of accountability is a condition in which the administrators are giving a satisfactory level of explanation in their performance and in their activities by using the power which is conferred to them. So, accountability means they should be accountable to the system, they should be accountable to the people, and obviously they should accountable to the entire administrative perspectives. The aim of accountability is to check about the administrative actions, how effectively, how efficiently the administrative process have been carried out by the administrators. So if the administrators are not having that accountability with them, the entire aspects of administrations will be disturbed. So this is the main key concept of having accountability. So according to L.D. White, administrative responsibility consists of the sum total of constitutional, statutory, administrative, and judicial rules and precedents and the established practices by the means of public officials may be held accountable for their official actions. Fifner also explains responsibility refers to public servants' responsiveness to the public will, whereas accountability is the method and procedure to enforce the public servant's responsibility. So both these two definitions deals with how accountability is going to work effectively in the administrative paradigm. Forms of control. The control is a process where the accountability is being checked to keep the entire mechanisms on track. So here the administrative structure or the hierarchy will frequently deals with the controlling part. The controlling part will be ensured using the laws or the constitutions or regulations which have been framed for the working of the public servants. So the most essential part of control is to check whether the bureaucratic machinery is going behind their actions. That is, how they are going to deal with the people, how they are going to deal with the machinery, how they are going to deal with their daily activities, because these activities should not interfere into the rights or liberties of the people. The rights and liberties of the people are the most important thing, and this is the most important things which is being covered in administration. So these controls are kept frequently to ensure whether everything is on correct path. So the forms of control are divided into two. One is the internal control, the other is the external control. So as the word, the internal control means which is happening inside the administrative machinery. Here the administrative machinery follows the aspects which is inside it, and for the effectiveness of this internal control we are having the systems like budgetary, personnel, efficiency, surveys, professional standards, hierarchical orders, enquiries, investigations, confidential reports. So all these aspects act as a key player in internal control. Whereas the external control is what the one which operates outside the administrative machinery, but is the most important one which controls the entire system, which is responsible for the entire system, and which is the one which operates the entire system. So these systems consist of the legislature, executive, judiciary, and finally all these systems are for the citizen. So these are the external controls. Legislative control. In a democracy, the most important aspect is the legislature. Legislature is a place where the representatives of the people ensures the exact ideas of democracy. Here, the will of the people are being exercised. So, as a supreme organ of the government, the entire democratic systems are being controlled by the legislature, as the legislature is the place where the representatives of the people delivers the power. The legislature exercises the control over the administrative machineries, and it is the most important controlling body which is accountable and responsible directly to the people. Here, the wills of the people are being reflected and the will of the people are being enacted. The legislative controls differs in two types. One is the parliamentary one, and the other one is the presidential form of government. The parliamentary system. The parliamentary system is based on the principles of collective responsibility. Here in India, we are having the parliamentary form of government where the entire administrations are directed through the ministries. The representatives of the people will be elected, and from those elected representatives, the party or the group which is having the maximum majority will be the one who will be in charge of the ministry. The administrators are directed by the legislature indirectly through these executives or ministers who are being elected by the people, and they are bounded with the principles of the legislature. The ways in which the legislature ensures the control over the administration. It is being divided into three. The first one is general control. General control is the one where the entire process happens. Here, the policies of the government, the policies and actions which are to be carried out, the policies and actions which are to be done, all these aspects are done in the general control. The general perspectives are being ensured. Second one is the financial control, where the finance related activities, the budget, the amounts, how to spend, how to check the balances, all these aspects are done in the financial control. Third one, detailed control through committees. This is the one which specifically ensures through the specified committees or group of representatives who will be in charge of a particular matter. These committees will ensure how the controls are to be maintained for effective results. So, the methods in which the parliamentary control are being ensured or the legislative controls are being ensured are: the first one is lawmaking. Lawmaking is considered to be the most important aspect of the legislature. The legislature is the law-making body and which frames the conditions, which frames the structures, which defines the functions and the procedures of administration. The lawmaking is the most essential control which is played by the legislator to ensure the effectiveness in ensuring the will of the people and to control over the administrative structure and aspects. Question hour or interpellations. The question hour is considered to be the most essential part in the parliamentary democracy. It is the time where the legislature is in a position to answer to the questions. The executives or the ministers are the persons who are there to answer the questions of the representatives. Here the will of the people are being ensured. So the question hours plays a very important crucial role in the parliamentary legislations. The parliamentary sessions are slotted for asking questions of three kinds. First one is the start questions. In this type of questions, the ministers are required to answer the questions orally. Here, the ministers will orally explain the details of the questions which are asked, and when the answers are given, frequent other questions can be raised by the representatives who are there in the legislature. Unstart questions are the second type of questions where written answers are required for these questions. So a representative can ask the questions, and the minister or the person who are responsible should answer the particular question in written format. So as the answer is in written format, there won't be any supplementary or any other further questions over the matter. Third type is the short notice question. Here, the representative can ask the minister by giving a notice about the questions which he is going to ask. Here, a notice of less than 10 days is being granted. So the minister or the executive will go through the questions, and within 10 days he will frame the answers, and these answers are orally given to the legislature. So these are the three kinds of questions which are asked in the Indian parliamentary system: start question, unstart questions, and short notice question. So when you hear about question hour in the parliament, you should be in a position to figure out these three types of questions. The next one is zero hour. So zero hour is an Indian innovation to the parliamentary procedure, and it started from the year 1962. So this is the time which is in between the question hour and agenda of the day. So you will be probably heard about business, because the parliamentary activities are regularly known as business hour. So business hour is the regular day schedules which are there. So this zero hour happens in between the question hour and the agenda of the day. In the zero hour, the members of the legislature can ask any questions which are of the public importance. Here, the questions won't need any prior notice, and the questions are not mentioned in the rules of procedures, but the representatives can ask the questions and can be discussed in the parliament. Zero hour is considered to be a very important concept because it deals with many aspects which are there of importance in the country. And if the representatives of the legislature are in a position to deal with the matters of the people, and the ministers are not focusing on a particular matter, these things can also be introduced during this zero hour. The next one is half an hour discussion. The half an hour discussion is the one in which the Speaker of the House can allot 3 days in a week for discussing a matter of public importance. Here, the matters which are of public importance are debated, and clarifications are being raised on facts, and these things won't be kept for voting. Here, the things which are of national importance are being discussed, and the representatives and the executives jointly take part in these activities to ensure a better administrative aspects for the particular matter. The next one is the short duration discussion. This is also like the half an hour discussion, where the speaker allows 2 days in a week or for a particular member who raises a particular question of national importance or public importance. Here, the questions can be made by any of the representatives which is having about the national or public importance. The other discussions are the one which includes in the legislature to improve the administration. So the other discussion includes the matters which are there to improve the administrative structure or perspectives or and the legislature can directly involve into these matters. This other discussion includes the inaugural address of the president, which is known as motion of thanks, where the president will declare what the government is going to perform. The introduction of bills for enactment of laws, how whatever changes are being enacted by introducing a particular bill is being discussed during the introduction of the bill. The introduction and passing of the resolution on matters of general public interest. Here the representatives are indulged in discussion part about the aspects which are brought into the legislature for its concern. Calling attention. This is also a provision like 0 hour where the member of the legislature can invite the attention or the focus of the minister who are responsible for a particular ministry. If the minister or the ministry is not taking action over a particular matter, the representative of the who are there in the legislature will introduce this matter in front of the minister. Here the minister should be concerned about the matters and should take particular actions over the matter. Unlike the 0 hour, these provisions are recorded in the rules of procedures of the legislature. Adjournment motion. This is a very important provision which is there in the parliament which invite the urgent attention of the house on a matter of public importance. This is a motion which needs the support of 50 members and this will interrupt the normal business of the house because the house has to postpone all the matters and has to take these matters as an important aspect and has to take decisions over these matters. These matters are regarded as a disapproval to the government because the government won't be concerned about that particular matter and that's why that adjournment motion will be introduced to the house. So this provision is not given to the Rajya Sabha. It is only given to the Lok Sabha because Lok Sabha is the place where the representatives are directly elected by the people. So the discussions of adjournment motion should not last more than 2 hours and 30 minutes and the adjournment motions are subjected to certain restrictions. That is, the first one is it should be a matter of definite, factual, and public importance, and it should not cover more than one at a time. So, vague matters cannot be introduced. That is the most important aspect about the adjournment motion. Second thing, it is restricted to the matters of recent occurrence and should not framed in a general terms or raise questions of privileges. A matter which happened previously or which has outdated one cannot be discussed. But if a matter which is happening currently in the nation, it can be discussed. Third one, it cannot discuss a matter which is there in front of the court because the court will be the body which will take a decision of that matter. So that cannot be introduced as an adjournment motion. But if a matter of public importance is not in front of the court, it can be raised as a motion in the House. So these are the restrictions which are maintained for the effective functioning of the adjournment motion. No confidence motion. As the term, it is about the confidence of the government and it is about the majority the government enjoys in the Lok Sabha. So as per the Article 75, The Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. And if the no confidence motions are being introduced and the no confidence motions are passed in the Lok Sabha, then the entire Council of Ministers should be in a position to resign their post and move out of their positions. So this is about the legislature's power to ensure whether the government has the authority or the majority to be in power. Censure motion. This is also like the no confidence motion, where censure motion is moved against a particular or an individual minister over certain policies or certain actions adopted by him. And if the Lok Sabha is passing this censure motion, the entire council should not resign like no confidence motion. Here, the particular minister or that ministry has to resign, except the entire ministry. Here, it is only for a particular minister or group of ministers. Budgetary system. This is one of the most important control exercised by the parliament, where the parliament or the legislature is having direct control over the revenue and the expenditure. This is the ultimate authority of the legislature in giving sanctions to the funds for the government to spend or the to look after or control over the matters of accounts of the government. Audit system. This is the most important tool exercised by the parliamentary system or the legislative system, where the audits of the accounts maintained by the governments are being done. These audits of the accounts of the government are done by the Comptroller and Audit General of India, shortly known as CAG, and this report illustrates the irregularities or illegal, uneconomical expenditures happened by the government. Here, the CAG is responsible to the Parliament, and the Parliament is the body which secures the CAG and its report. The CAG report is having the national importance as it is the exact control exercised by the legislature over the accounts of the country. Public Accounts Committee. As like the CAG, the other important key control exercised by the legislature is the Public Accounts Committee. This committee was set up in India in the year 1921 under the Government of India Act of 1990. At present, this committee consists of 22 members, 15 from the Lok Sabha and 7 from the Rajya Sabha. The members are elected every year by the method of proportional representation, and the tenure for a particular public account committee is for 1 year. No ministers are allowed to be a member of these committees to ensure effectiveness of the committee. The function of the committee is to examine the annual audit report submitted by the CAG and to examine over the revenue and expenditure of the Government of India. Estimate Committee. As like Public Accounts Committee, Estimate Committee is also selected from the members of Lok Sabha for the purpose of scrutinizing and functions of the government, ministries and departments. Here, unlike the Public Account Committee, only the members of Lok Sabha are being elected, and it consists of 30 members and is elected for 1 year through the method of proportional representation. The functions of the committee includes the examination of the estimates and budgets and suggesting new policies for the effective administrative aspects of the government. Question hour or interpellations. The question hour is considered to be the most essential part in the parliamentary democracy. It is the time where the legislature is in a position to answer to the questions. The executives or the ministers are the personnels who are there to answer the questions of the representatives. Here the will of the people are being ensured. So the question hours plays a very important crucial role in the parliamentary legislations. The parliamentary sessions are slotted for asking questions of three kinds. First one is the start questions. In this type of questions, the ministers are required to answer the questions orally. Here, the ministers will orally explain the details of the questions which are asked, and when the answers are given, frequent other questions can be raised by the representatives who are there in the legislature. Unstart questions are the second type of questions where written answers are required for these questions. So a representative can ask the questions, and the minister or the person who are responsible should answer the particular question in written format. So as the answer is in written format, there won't be any supplementary or any other further questions over the matter. Third type is the short notice question. Here, the representative can ask the minister by giving a notice. The next one is half an hour discussion. The half an hour discussion is the one in which the Speaker of the House can allot 3 days in a week for discussing a matter of public importance. Here, the matters which are of public importance are debated and clarifications are being raised on facts, and these things won't be kept for voting. Here, the things which are of national importance are being discussed, and the representatives and the executives jointly take part in these activities to ensure a better administrative aspects for the particular matter. The next one is the short duration discussion. This is also like the half an hour discussion where the speaker allows 2 days in a week or for a particular member who raises a particular question of national importance or public importance. Here, the questions can be made by any of the representatives which is having about the national or public importance. The other discussions are the one which includes in the legislature to improve the administration. So the other discussion includes the matters which are there to improve the administrative structure or perspectives, or and the legislature can directly involve into these matters. This other discussion includes the inaugural address of the president, which is known as motion of thanks, where the president will declare. So far, we have discussed about the parliamentary legislative control which are exercised in India. So, the parliamentary legislative controls are being carried out through the effective involvement of the legislature. The second form which we have in the legislature format is the presidential system. Here, the legislative control in the presidential system differs from that of the parliamentary type. As per the theory of separation of power, the legislature and the executive remains independent, whereas the parliamentary type it is not separated. In the presidential form of legislature, the executive or the president is not responsible to the legislature or won't sit in the legislature, whereas in the parliamentary type, the prime minister or the executive is responsible to the legislature and he has to take part in the activities of the legislature. The president is directly elected for a fixed term and cannot be removed in normal conditions, as he does not need the support of the legislature to enjoy the office, whereas in a parliamentary system, the executive or the prime minister who has to exercise the power should need the support, or his party needs the majority in the parliament to exercise the power. In a presidential system, the legislature frames the laws and policies and investigate the administrative department outside the president's control. So these are about the federal budgets which are prepared the by the president and by the team which are being directed by the president. But in the parliamentary system, the entire activities are done inside the legislature, and entire thing has to be approved by the legislature. In a presidential format, the legislature enjoys the power of impeachment of the president before his tenure expires for a reason of corruption or action against country's interest. But in a parliamentary system, we know the entire executive is being controlled by the legislature, and the executive needs the support in the legislature to exercise his powers. So these are the main differences which we are having in a presidential form of legislature and a parliamentary form of legislature. Executive control. Now we are going to discuss about the executive control over the administration. Executive or the chief executive or the political executives are responsible for the entire functioning of the bureaucracy. In a system of parliamentary type, like in India, the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers are the one who are responsible for the executive control, whereas in a presidential form, like in the United States of America, it is exercised by the president and his secretaries. So the methods how the executives are controlling the system. First one, political directions or policy making. The policy making or political direction is the most essential thing which an executive does in an administrative perspective. The policies or the actions implemented by the executives are the one which makes the entire system the most effective one, and it is the one which directs the system to perform its activities. The executive is the supreme authority who supervise, who control, and who direct the entire machinery, and it is the sole responsibility of the administrators to go with the commands given by the executives. So this is the most important control which is done by the executives. Budgetary system. Budgetary systems are the most important aspect which the executive enacts their control over the performance of the government. Here, the executives allocates the fund for the administrative agencies, and they frame out the budgets of the government, and this has to be approved by the legislature. With the approval of the legislature, the executive allocates the funds and the policies of the governments, and the programs of the executives are being carried out based on the budget which is approved and the budgets which are framed by the executives. Personal management and control. The executives or the ministers plays a very important role in appointing and removing the entire administrative structures. The administrative machinery is the most important one which is required for effective delivery of the administration. Here, the higher officials of particular departments are appointed by the ministries, and to help the executives or ministries in this aspect, in India, we are having the Department of Personnel and Training, Ministry of Finance, and UPSC. So we know these are the bodies which plays a very important role in the personal management. And by using these officials, the executives are carrying their activities. Delegated legislation. Delegated legislation is also known as executive legislation, which are the powers which are granted to the ministries or the executives over the administration. Here, the executive frames certain policies, and these policies and principles will be granted to them based on certain laws or regulations which are there in the constitution. So as per this delegated or granted power, the executive exercises their power or control over the administrative system. Ordinance. The chief executive of the country or the president of India is granted with the power of issuing ordinance. So this is the most important power given to the executive to enact or to take immediate actions over certain particular thing. This thing or this power is granted to the executive to meet certain emergencies when the parliament is not in a session. The activities has to be carried out on timely, and by the issuing of this ordinance, the timely enactment of laws and regulations are carried out, and the administrative system is not interrupted in any way. The only thing is the ordinance has to be approved by the legislature within a period of 6 months. Otherwise, the ordinance get cancelled. The same provisions is given to the states also, where the ordinance can be issued by the governors of that particular state. Civil Service Code. So the Civil Service Code are the control which are used to examine the officials. Here, a certain codes and conducts are being framed for the officials to perform their official matters. So the important civil service codes in India are All India Service Rules of 1954, Central Civil Service Rules of 1955, Railway Services Rules of 1956. Staff agencies. As like the executives, the most important part of the administration is the staff agency. These are the group which can exercise influence and indirect control over the administration. The staff agency plays a very important role in coordinating the policies and programs, and these staff agencies can directly indulge them into the activities of administration. In India, some of the important staff agencies are the Department of Administrative Reforms, Cabinet Secretariat, and the Prime Minister's Office. So these staff agencies can directly indulge into the activities of administration. Appeal to public opinion. The administrative system is in India is considered to be a status quo oriented one, and hence no changes are being carried out in the policies and plans and projects. But it can resist certain changes based on the public opinion. Frequently, the bureaucracies resist a new change by the public opinion, but in certain circumstances, the public can gear up with new initiatives, and these public opinions can be exercised to control the entire administrative system. Judicial control. So, like the legislature, executive, the next most important administrative authority is the judiciary. Here, the legislature makes the laws, the executive enacts the laws, and the judiciary protects the laws. The judiciary plays a very important, crucial role in protecting the administrative activities. The control exercised by the courts over the administrative acts are known as judicial control, and these are the ones which are there according to the limitations of laws. The main objective of the judicial control is to protect the rights and liberties of the citizen and to ensure that the entire activities, the entire things happening in the country is as per the rule of law. The judiciary won't interfere indirectly or intervene indirectly into the matters unless it is being carried out to the judiciary. But if the judiciary makes with an intervention, the executive and the legislature has to go with the judicial control. The judicial control is a very essential thing which is needed for a democracy because the entire thing has to be carried out as per the rule of law of that particular land. The methods which are there to ensure the judicial controls are judicial review. The judicial review is the process in which the courts examines the legality or the constitutionality of an administrative actions being carried out. Here, the courts will examine whether the activities done by the executive or the legislature is as per the constitution of the country. And if any such cases arises, the court can make it as unconstitutional or in an invalid one, and these actions by the court should be accepted by the executive and the legislature. This is a cross-checking of the acts which are being carried out is based on constitution or the rules of and regulations of the country. Statutory appeal. This is the provisions where a citizen is given the power of appealing to the court. If a citizen feels that he is being not granted the exact justice, he can appeal to the court, and based on the laws and regulations, the court will take his case and will came up with statutes and laws and will grant him with exact judgments. Suits against the government. The judicial control is even exercised against the state, and as per the Article 300 of the Indian Constitution, the union government and the state governments can be prosecuted by the courts if any unlawful things have happened. The states are charged for the unlawful activities taken by them, and the courts will grant the citizens with exact judgment by considering the statutes and laws which are there in the Indian Constitution. This is a check by the courts over the government for not taking any illegal actions against the citizen or the public. Suit against public officials. Like the government, these are the control exercised by the judiciary over the public officials who are responsible for the administrative aspects of the people. Only the president and the state governors are being accepted in this act. Unless when they are enjoying the office, they cannot be sued. But a notice can be issued against them for about a period of 2 months. The thing is to ensure that no one is above the law. Anyone who are there in control of the administrative structure are responsible to follow the rules and regulations of the country, and if any authority is going beyond the law, even if it is the president or the state governors or the prime minister or whoever are there, they can be sued by the courts for not following the rules and regulations of the country. This is to establish exact rule of law in the administrative perspective of the country. Extraordinary remedies. The judiciary also controls certain usages of writs as per the Article 32 of the Indian Constitution and Article 226 of the Indian Constitution. Article 32 grants the Supreme Court with the power of writs, whereas Article 226 grants the High Courts to safeguard the fundamental rights of the citizen. The extraordinary remedies consist of 6 different types of writs issued by the courts. Only 5 are as per the Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. Habeas corpus. This means to have the body of. This is issued by the court if a person is prisoned by another person illegally, and to produce the person prisoned in front of the court. This is to protect the individual liberty against any discriminative actions. Here, the individual liberty of the citizen or the people is being protected by the court. No one in the country are in a position to control or hinder another person or interfere into the liberty of the other person. And by the control of habeas corpus, the court will examine into the aspect, and the person who are being controlled by another person should be presented to the court. Mandamus. This means we command. Here the court control the public officials who are irregular in performing the activities. Here, the public official is asked by the court to perform his duties well, which he is failed to do so. Prohibition means to forbid. This is issued by a higher court over a lower court when the lower court exceeds its jurisdiction. For example, here the Supreme Court can ask the High Court to stop over the jurisdiction of that particular matter and take over that matter. Certiorari, which means to be certified. Here, the higher court issues this to the lower court to transfer the proceedings or the case pending with it. Here, the higher court can interfere into the lower court's cases and can ask the lower court to transfer the matter to the higher court. Quo warranto, which means by what authority or warrant. This is issued by the court to find the legality of a person who assumes office and thus to prevent illegal assumption of a office by a person. So any illegal appointments are being done, the courts can interfere in the matter because it is the responsibility of the court to protect the rights of the people. So any irregularities or illegal activities should not be done in assuming an official position. So these 5 are mentioned in the Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. So the sixth one, or the sixth type of writ which is issued by the court, is the injunction. This is issued by the court to a person to do a thing or to stop from doing it. Here it is the power of the court to interfere in the matter and grant the person to do a thing or stop a person from doing it. So these are the 6 types of control which are being utilized by the courts in India to protect the rights, liberties, and the fundamental essential rights granted by the Constitution to the citizens of India. By this, we have reached the conclusion of administrative responsibility. If you like the sessions, kindly subscribe my channel, Public Policy Tracker, and please press the bell button for further notifications. Also, comments and suggestions are invited, and hope that your valuable comments can make further sessions more attractive and responsible. Thank you.